Autumn Reynolds only wanted to buy her mother a birthday dress. That's all. A simple, heartfelt gift from a 15-year-old daughter who had saved every dollar she could find. Allowance money, babysitting cash, even tips from helping neighbors with groceries. She'd been planning this surprise for months, but the moment she stepped inside Bella's boutique, that hope turned into suspicion. That suspicion became humiliation. And by the time her mother arrived, Autumn was sitting in the back of a patrol car, handcuffed, her money untouched, her heart bruised. She had committed no crime, but in the eyes of the boutique's manager, her skin color was evidence enough. And that's where everything unraveled. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. Autumn had grown up in a home where kindness was currency and respect was expected, no matter who you were talking to. Raised by a single mother, Danielle Reynolds, Autumn knew the value of hard work, because she saw it in her mother every day. Danielle had clawed her way from the textile mills of South Carolina to the penthouse boardrooms of Chicago. Now at 42, she was the CEO of Reynolds & Company, Apparel, a nationwide luxury fashion brand with stores in 22 states. But Danielle didn't flaunt it. She didn't parade her title in public. She let her work and her presence speak for itself. And Autumn? She was her mother's shadow, observant, dignified, and deeply intentional, which is exactly why she chose to do something bold for her mother's birthday. Autumn's plan was simple. Walk into Bella's boutique alone, pick out a beautiful emerald dress, the same one she'd bookmarked on her mom's laptop weeks ago, and pay for it with her savings. She'd even practiced what to say in the mirror. "Excuse me, ma'am, I'm shopping for my mom's birthday." She thought it would be a quiet, meaningful experience. What she didn't know was that Cynthia Walker, the boutique's store manager, had a different script in mind. Cynthia was a white woman in her early 50s who believed in control of her store, her staff, and most of all, her clientele. She didn't wear her prejudice loudly. She wrapped it in politeness and policy, in a thin-lipped smile, and a tone that was just sweet enough to avoid suspicion. But when a black teenager walked into her pristine boutique on a quiet Friday afternoon, Cynthia didn't see a customer. She saw a threat. No adult, no appointment. Just a girl in sneakers and a denim jacket with a purse clutched close to her side. Cynthia's eyes narrowed. Her posture stiffened, and before Autumn had said a single word, a narrative had already formed. The boutique was quiet, save for soft classical music playing over the speakers. A few customers browsed the racks, two middle-aged white women chatting about gala dresses, a young couple debating evening wear. No one paid Autumn much attention, except Cynthia, who began following her at a distance of 10 feet, arms crossed, eyes tracking every movement. When Autumn reached for a gown, Cynthia was there. "Careful," she warned sharply. "That's a $400 dress." Her voice was tight, dismissive. Autumn blinked. "Yes, ma'am, I just want to see the tag." It escalated quickly. Every step Autumn took, Cynthia shadowed her. When Autumn finally approached the counter, hands trembling slightly, dress draped over her arm, and $500 in bills tucked neatly in an envelope, Cynthia didn't look impressed. She looked angry. "Where'd you get this kind of money?" she asked, loud enough for others to hear. Autumn tried to answer, but Cynthia cut her off. "You know what? I think you've been putting things in your jacket." And with that, she picked up the phone and dialed 911. "Yeah, this is Bella's boutique on West Monroe. I've got a black girl here, teenager, probably hiding merchandise. I need police right away." Autumn's throat went dry. The customers went still. The air inside the store thickened. And in that moment, she realized it didn't matter what she said, how politely she spoke, or how carefully she'd folded her money. She had already been judged, tried, and sentenced. She sent a single message to her mom. "Mom, please help me. They're arresting me. I didn't do anything." Across the city, Danielle Reynolds was standing at a glass podium, presenting quarterly earnings to a room full of investors when her phone buzzed silently. She had 17 missed calls. And then she saw the message. The click of her heels echoed like a thunderclap as she walked out of that boardroom, leaving behind millions in potential deals. What she didn't leave behind was her fury, because someone had just tried to break her daughter. And that was the last mistake they'd ever make. From the moment Autumn Reynolds stepped into Bella's boutique, the air changed. She didn't notice it at first. The polished floors gleamed. The chandeliers overhead sparkled like frozen fireworks. The racks of dresses stood neatly arranged, each shimmering with high fashion and steep price tags. But for Cynthia Walker, the store's manager, that quiet afternoon was about to take an unacceptable turn. Her words, not anyone else's. Cynthia prided herself on running a refined store. She'd been managing Bella's for nearly 8 years and had seen every kind of customer. At least that's what she told herself. In truth, Cynthia had built her own invisible caste system, an internal radar for who belonged and who didn't. It wasn't about fashion. It wasn't even about money. It was about control and comfort. And what made her most uncomfortable was someone like Autumn walking in alone. 15 years old. Black. Dressed in a faded jean jacket and sneakers. No parent, no appointment. Carrying a small leather purse over one shoulder. Autumn didn't look poor. She looked determined. But to Cynthia, that didn't matter. Her kind of girl didn't belong in a place like this, unless she was holding a mop or taking out the trash. And so, while the other customers received warm smiles and bottled water, Autumn was met with narrowed eyes and crossed arms. From behind the cash register, Cynthia watched like a hawk. She didn't even try to pretend. Her eyes followed Autumn as she moved past the mannequins, as she gently lifted hangers to peek at tags. Autumn walked with grace. Each motion was careful, intentional, like she understood the value of what she was touching. She didn't fidget or rush. She didn't whip out a phone or cause any scene. She was as polite as a Sunday school teacher. But none of that registered with Cynthia. All she saw was risk. The boutique was quiet that day, maybe 5 or 6 customers total. 2 white women in their 40s, laughing softly near the formal wear section. A young couple browsing evening gowns for a charity gala. And toward the back, Samantha Brooks, a 17-year-old white girl, was flipping through cocktail dresses with her earbuds in and her mother's platinum credit card dangling from her fingers. When Autumn approached the sales counter hoping to ask for help, Cynthia didn't even look up. The girl stood there, patient, polite, waiting nearly a full minute. "Excuse me, ma'am," Autumn said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm looking for a birthday dress for my mom." Cynthia finally lifted her head. Her face wore an expression somewhere between irritation and disbelief. "The dresses are over there," she muttered, pointing vaguely toward the back wall. That was it. No hello. No, what's the occasion? No smile. Autumn blinked but managed a soft "thank you" before turning away. Near the dressing rooms, Lisa Mendoza, a sales associate in her late 20s, watched the exchange from behind a mirrored pillar. Her stomach turned. This wasn't the first time she'd seen Cynthia act like this. If a customer looked off-brand, younger, darker, or unfamiliar, Cynthia's customer service flipped like a switch. And Lisa had learned the hard way that speaking up could cost you your job. Just last spring, a fellow associate had been fired for overstepping boundaries after trying to help a black woman who Cynthia had refused to serve. Lisa had bills, rent, a 6-year-old son. So she stayed quiet, but not proud. Autumn made her way through the boutique, running her fingers gently along rows of silk, satin, and tulle. She was searching for something just right. She wasn't looking for trendy or flashy. She was looking for regal, something that would make her mother, Danielle Reynolds, feel celebrated, seen, beautiful. And then she saw it, an emerald green gown hanging alone like a hidden treasure. Floor length, with a delicate beaded neckline and a subtle shimmer that caught the light with every tilt. Autumn's breath caught in her throat. She reached out, touched the fabric lightly, and peeked at the price tag, $400. It was perfect. She had $500 tucked in a bank envelope in her purse, cash she'd saved from chores, side gigs, and birthday cards. Enough for the dress, tax, and even a ribbon-wrapped box. But just as she lifted the gown off the rack to admire it, Cynthia appeared, her heels clicking against the floor like warning bells. "Be very careful with that," she said sharply. "Those aren't playthings." Startled, Autumn turned. "Yes, ma'am, I'm just checking the size." Cynthia narrowed her eyes. "That dress costs $400. It's not for everyone." The message was loud and clear. Autumn took a breath. "I understand. I've been saving up for my mom's birthday." Cynthia's eyes dropped to Autumn's purse and then back to her face. Her lips curled. "Well," she said, "some people say that, and then we find items missing. I'll be keeping an eye on you." She turned and walked away, but not far. She hovered, watching. Every time Autumn picked up a new dress, Cynthia reappeared, whispering little warnings. "That's silk, dear." Or, "Those beads are hand-stitched." Or worse, "You know this isn't a thrift store, right?" Other customers began to notice, especially Samantha Brooks, who paused her music and observed from across the room. She had seen Cynthia greet her with a smile and compliments when she walked in earlier. She'd been offered bottled water, fitting room assistance, and style tips. But this girl, this quiet black teenager, was being treated like a criminal in slow motion. Samantha pulled out her phone and began recording quietly. Meanwhile, Autumn tried to stay calm. She reached into her purse and pulled out the envelope. Neat stacks of 20s, 50s, and a crisp $100 bill. She walked to the counter again, dress folded carefully over her arm. "Excuse me," she said. "I'd like to try this on, please." Cynthia didn't reach for the dress. She reached for judgment. "That's a very expensive item," she said slowly, as if speaking to someone with limited understanding. "Where did you get that money?" Autumn blinked. "I saved it. Over a few months." "I don't believe you." "I can show you the bank envelope. I can call my mom." "No," Cynthia snapped. "I think you're lying, and I think you're concealing items." "I'm not. I saw you put something in your jacket pocket. You—" "What?" Autumn's voice cracked. The store fell silent. "You need to put that dress back and wait here. I'm calling the police." Lisa froze. Samantha's camera kept rolling. Autumn stood motionless, humiliated. And then Cynthia made the call. "Yes, this is Bella's boutique. I have a young black female here, likely underage. She's acting suspicious and concealing merchandise. We need officers immediately." It didn't matter that Cynthia hadn't seen any theft. It didn't matter that Autumn was standing there with open hands, tear-filled eyes, and $500 in plain sight. All that mattered to Cynthia was that Autumn didn't fit. Officer Brian Foster responded to the call. A 38-year-old patrolman with a calm demeanor and 10 years on the force, He approached the boutique unaware of the storm he was walking into. He found Autumn seated near the back of the store, dress beside her, hands shaking. Cynthia met him at the door with a confident smirk. "There she is, that's the one." "Have you found anything on her?" he asked. "Not yet," she replied. "But she was clearly hiding something. You can check the footage later." Samantha Brooks stepped forward. "I recorded the whole thing. She didn't take anything. She just wanted to buy a dress." But Cynthia wasn't listening. Neither, it seemed, was Officer Foster, at least not yet. Autumn's purse was taken. She was gently patted down, and then, to the horror of everyone watching, placed in handcuffs. Lisa Mendoza walked into the stockroom and sobbed into her hands. Autumn sat in the patrol car outside, wrists burning, heart pounding, not understanding how such a beautiful day had gone so wrong. She glanced down at her phone. One bar of signal. She texted, "Mom, please help me. They're arresting me. I didn't do anything." And across the city, the woman who built the company that owned that boutique, her mother, was about to unleash a fury the store would never forget. The envelope of cash sat neatly on the counter. Crisp bills counted and sorted. $500, saved one careful dollar at a time by a 15-year-old girl with nothing but good intentions in her heart. But to Cynthia Walker, none of that mattered. Autumn Reynolds could have held a gold bar in her hands, and she still would have been seen as suspicious. It was the way Cynthia looked at her that changed everything. Not just with scrutiny, with certainty. The certainty of someone who had already decided that Autumn was guilty the moment she walked through the door. Autumn had never been in trouble a day in her life. She was the kind of teenager who said, "Yes, ma'am," to strangers, picked up litter at the park without being asked, and spent weekends volunteering at the community library. And yet, standing in that boutique, with tears brimming in her eyes, she was being treated like a common criminal. "I have the money," she said softly, placing the envelope on the marble countertop. Cynthia didn't even glance at the cash. She stared straight into Autumn's eyes and asked, "Where did you steal it?" Autumn blinked. "I didn't steal anything. Teenagers don't just walk into high-end boutiques with $500 in cash," Cynthia said coldly. "Not ones like you." There it was. Not even disguised. Autumn's heart pounded in her chest. The dress, emerald green, beaded at the neckline, still hung over her arm. Her fingers were trembling now. "I can call my mom," she said. "She can explain." "No phone calls," Cynthia snapped. "You're not talking your way out of this." "I didn't do anything wrong." Autumn's voice cracked, rising slightly. Cynthia leaned in. "I saw you put something in your jacket. Don't lie to me." "I didn't," Autumn gasped. "You can search my jacket, my purse." "You know what?" Cynthia interrupted, already reaching for the store's landline. "Let's let the police sort it out." And with the calm of someone ordering lunch, she dialed 911. "Yes, this is Cynthia Walker at Bella's Boutique on West Monroe," she said into the phone, her voice smooth, professional. "We've got a situation. Young African-American female, possibly underage, suspicious behavior, concealing merchandise, being verbally aggressive. I need officers dispatched immediately." Every word was a dagger. Autumn's legs gave out slightly. She reached for the edge of the counter to steady herself. Around the store, customers fell silent. A young white couple paused their conversation, glancing toward the commotion. An older woman frowned but said nothing. Only Samantha Brooks, still filming from behind a row of cocktail dresses, looked horrified. In the staff hallway, Lisa Mendoza pressed her back against the wall, hand over her mouth. She had watched every second of the interaction and knew what was really happening. Autumn had done nothing. Nothing except exist in a space someone decided she didn't deserve. Within minutes, the flashing red and blue lights from a Chicago PD cruiser lit up the boutique's front windows. Autumn heard the siren before she saw the car. The sound hit her chest like a punch. When Officer Brian Foster stepped through the glass doors, he was met by Cynthia, who greeted him with the authority of someone who believed she was doing her civic duty. She gestured toward Autumn, who now stood frozen near the register, dress still in hand. That's her. She was hiding merchandise and refusing to cooperate. Officer Foster, a 10-year veteran of the force, scanned the scene. Autumn didn't look like someone fleeing a store with stolen goods. She looked like a child on the verge of collapse. "Do you have video footage?" he asked Cynthia. "Not at the moment," she said quickly. "Our cameras have been glitchy all week." "Witnesses?" Foster asked. "I'm the manager," Cynthia answered, as though that alone were proof. Samantha took a hesitant step forward. "Sir, I've been recording. She didn't steal anything. I saw the whole thing. She just wanted to buy a dress." Cynthia turned sharply. "Stay out of this. You don't know what she was doing." Foster approached Autumn cautiously. "Miss, do you have anything in your pockets?" "No, sir. You can check. I didn't take anything," she said, her voice trembling. "May I see your purse?" She handed it over with shaking hands. He rifled through it. A lip balm, a receipt from the corner store, the envelope of money. No merchandise, no stolen tags, no sensors, nothing. Foster hesitated. His training told him that false reports were possible, but so were concealed thefts. He didn't want to accuse a child unfairly, but Cynthia was insistent. "She was sneaky, officer, moving fast, hiding behind racks. I've seen it before." Autumn's breathing grew shallow. The room felt smaller, tighter. "Please," she whispered, "call my mom. I didn't steal." "I swear." Foster sighed, unsure, then reached for his radio. "Unit 23, juvenile female at Bella's boutique. No items recovered. Manager reports concealment. No active video confirmation. Requesting female officer for search procedure." "Copy, Unit 23. ETA 14 minutes, the dispatcher replied. And then, protocol kicked in. For Autumn's safety and Officer Foster's, the policy stated she be temporarily restrained until a female officer could conduct a search. "I'm sorry, but I need to detain you for now," Foster said, gently pulling her arms behind her. The click of the handcuffs was the loudest sound Autumn had ever heard. "No, please, don't do this," she cried, sobbing now. Cynthia stood smug behind the counter, arms folded. "Actions have consequences," she muttered. Outside the boutique, a small crowd began to form. Shoppers paused, phones emerged, people whispered. Samantha, still filming, turned the camera toward her own face. "This is happening right now in Chicago. A teenage black girl is being arrested for trying to buy a dress. She had the money. The store manager just accused her because she didn't believe someone like her could afford it." Back in the patrol car, Autumn sat in the back seat, staring out the window as the world blurred past in streaks of sunlight and concrete. She tried her mom's number again. No answer. Across the city, Danielle Reynolds was in a boardroom, presenting quarterly growth strategies to a room full of shareholders. Her phone lay silent on the polished table, per company policy. Her assistant, Carolyn, waited outside with messages piling up on the screen. When the presentation ended, Danielle picked up her phone and saw it. 17 missed calls, 12 unread texts, and at the bottom, a single message from Autumn. "Mom, please help me. They're arresting me. I didn't do anything." Everything changed in that moment. Danielle didn't excuse herself politely. She didn't gather her papers. She stood, fire already building in her chest, and said only 4 words. "This meeting is over." Across the conference room, Wallace Green, a skeptical investor who had often questioned her leadership, raised an eyebrow. "Is something wrong?" "My daughter has been arrested for shopping," Danielle replied. The room fell silent. Danielle turned to her assistant. "Get my lawyer, get my brother. Tell my driver to meet me out front." She grabbed her purse, her tablet, and her phone. On her way out, she made a single call to Judge Michael Reynolds, her older brother. "She's been what?" he barked into the phone. "At Bella's boutique, on West Monroe. I'm 20 minutes away." By the time Danielle reached the elevator, she had already dialed her family physician, Dr. Camille Price, and the police chief's office. Her hands were steady, her mind razor sharp. If her daughter had been wronged, the city was about to feel it. Back at the store, Autumn sat handcuffed, staring at her reflection in the patrol car window. A reflection that didn't look like her anymore. It looked tired. It looked small. It looked broken. But help was coming, and so was a storm. Danielle Reynolds had survived plenty in her 42 years. She'd endured bankruptcy, racist investors, a divorce that left her rebuilding from scratch with a toddler on her hip. She'd outworked men who mocked her, built a company in an industry that rarely embraced black women, and spent 2 decades proving that elegance and authority were not mutually exclusive. But nothing prepared her for her child in handcuffs. She was standing at the head of a glass-walled conference room, just finishing a projection summary for the upcoming fiscal quarter. Charts and numbers glowed across a 70-inch display screen behind her. Investors were nodding. Her VP was smiling. Wall Street had finally begun taking her seriously. Then she flipped over her phone. 17 missed calls, 12 unread messages, and at the very bottom, a single text from Autumn. "Mom, please help me. They're arresting me. I didn't do anything." Danielle didn't move for a full 2 seconds. Her heart stopped, then began to thunder against her ribcage like a train derailed. Her breathing turned shallow. Her hand, usually so steady with a pointer or a pen, began to tremble. The room blurred. Conversations faded. There was only the message, and the image in her mind of her daughter, scared and alone. Danielle spoke just 5 words. "This meeting is over. Now." She turned on her heels, high-end heels that clicked across the marble floor like gunfire. The kind of steps that usually meant success was walking by, but today they heralded something else. War. Outside the boardroom, her assistant Carolyn stood with a legal pad, unaware. Danielle's voice was low but sharp. "Call my brother, call my attorney, get the car." "Yes, ma'am. What's wrong?" "My daughter has been arrested at one of my stores." Carolyn gasped. "At Bella's?" "Yes." Danielle was already dialing. And it's about to become the biggest mistake they've ever made. She didn't wait for a response. She called her brother, Judge Michael Reynolds, first. "Michael, it's Danny. They've put Autumn in cuffs. She was shopping at Bella's boutique." Silence. Then, "I'm 10 blocks away." "I'm heading there now." Next, she called David Chen, her lead attorney. "I need you at Bella's boutique on West Monroe. Autumn's been wrongfully detained. I want eyes, liability assessments, everything. Start prepping civil rights violations paperwork." Wait, David stammered. "Are you serious? Autumn was arrested?" "She was shopping. That's all she was doing." Danielle ended the call and immediately dialed Dr. Camille Price, the family's longtime physician and Madison's trauma counselor. "I don't know what's happened exactly, but I want you en route. Bring your medical bag. If she's been touched, searched, manhandled. I want a full exam." "On my way," Camille said without hesitation. Danielle's driver met her at the front steps of the Reynolds and Company headquarters. Her sleek black Lincoln Navigator was already purring curbside, rear doors open. "Bella's boutique," she said, climbing in, voice tight. "Drive like a mother." The car surged forward, weaving through late-afternoon Chicago traffic with practiced speed. Horns honked. Bicyclists cursed. Danielle didn't blink. Her phone rang again. This time, it was Chief Avery Morrison. "Danielle, I just got a call from your lawyer and... Wait, what the hell is going on?" "My daughter's been arrested by one of your patrol officers for shopping." "What? That doesn't make sense. She was in my store, Avery." "You own the store?" "Bella's boutique is a Reynolds property." "Oh, hell. You've got exactly 5 minutes to figure out what happened before I hit the sidewalk. If my daughter's in the back of a cruiser crying, you're going to have a press conference by midnight." "I'll call dispatch," Chief Morrison said, already typing furiously. "Please, just give me a moment to check the facts." Danielle hung up. Outside the car window, familiar landmarks flew by. The riverfront, the Willis Tower, a banner for the local Chamber of Commerce, the very one she'd donated to. She'd helped fund a scholarship for the children of first responders. She'd written personal checks for police training programs. And now her own child, her daughter, was in the back of a patrol car for buying a dress in a store that she owned. Rage sat in her throat like iron, but beneath it, panic brewed. What if they scared her? What if they touched her? What if they hurt her? Danielle had fought too hard for too long to see Autumn reduced to a mugshot. She had taught her to be polite, to be patient, to follow rules. But she'd also taught her to stand up for herself. Had that been mistaken for aggression? Did that store manager, what was her name, Cynthia something, actually think she could get away with this? Her phone vibrated again. It was Patricia, her company's head of public relations. "Danny, I've started getting media alerts. A teen in handcuffs at Bella's. Videos are spreading. Twitter's heating up." "Control the message," Danielle said. "I want a statement ready in 1 hour. We don't just respond. We own this." "Yes, ma'am." Patricia paused. "Are you okay?" Danielle's voice softened, barely. "No, but I will be, once I have my daughter in my arms." As the Navigator pulled up to Bella's, the scene outside was already chaotic. Crowds had gathered. Some people were filming. A couple of news vans were pulling into position. The flashing lights of police cruisers painted the windows in red and blue. Danielle stepped out slowly, carefully, like a general entering enemy territory. She wasn't dressed for battle, but she looked like she'd win one anyway. Tailored charcoal suit, emerald earrings, black leather heels. Her hair pulled back in a tight bun that told the world, "I don't play." The moment she stepped onto the sidewalk, everything shifted. Officer Brian Foster turned and immediately recognized her. His face went pale. Cynthia Walker, still standing by the door, folded her arms and raised her chin until she realized who she was looking at. Danielle didn't approach Cynthia. She marched toward the patrol car where her daughter sat handcuffed in the back seat. "Officer," she barked, "get those cuffs off my child, now." "Ma'am, I said now." There was something in Danielle's voice, deep, commanding, undeniable. Foster fumbled with his keys, nearly dropping them as he unlocked the restraints. Autumn spilled into her mother's arms, sobbing. "Mom, I didn't. Shh, I've got you," Danielle whispered. "They're never touching you again." Behind them, Dr. Camille Price had just arrived. Judge Michael Reynolds stepped out of a black SUV, badge hanging from a lanyard around his neck. David Chen was already on his phone, speaking to civil rights attorneys. Danielle stood, holding Autumn close, and faced Cynthia. "You called the cops on the owner's daughter," she said. "I hope you enjoyed your last day in retail." Cynthia's jaw dropped. "I didn't know. She didn't say who she was." "She didn't have to," Danielle said coldly, "because no child should have to prove they belong." Judge Reynolds stepped forward. "Ms. Walker, I'd advise you not to say another word. I'll be reviewing surveillance footage and witness statements shortly. You may want legal counsel." Lisa Mendoza, the quiet sales associate, stepped forward then, voice shaking. "I saw everything," she said, "and Autumn didn't do anything wrong." Cynthia turned pale. Samantha Brooks stepped forward, phone raised. "I have it on video, everything." And that's when Cynthia knew it was over. Danielle turned to Officer Foster. "I want your badge number and the name of your superior, because this isn't over." Foster swallowed hard. "Yes, ma'am." As the crowd watched, Danielle held her daughter close, steel in her eyes. What began as a birthday surprise had become a public reckoning, and Danielle Reynolds, mother and mogul, was far from finished. The crowd outside Bella's boutique had doubled in less than 20 minutes. Cell phones were up. People whispered, pointed, murmured. A few shouted things like, "Let her go," and "This is America, not 1955. The mood wasn't just tense. It was electric. Inside the store, Officer Brian Foster's hands trembled slightly as he unlocked the handcuffs from Autumn Reynolds' wrists. Danielle Reynolds stood beside him, her presence like a thundercloud ready to split the earth. She held her daughter close, whispering softly, stroking her hair, even as her eyes stayed locked, burning, on Cynthia Walker. Cynthia had backed up behind the checkout counter. The confident smirk that had sat so comfortably on her lips an hour earlier had vanished. In its place, confusion, disbelief, and something edging into panic. Danielle's voice cut the silence. "You arrested my daughter," she said, low but fierce, "in my store." Cynthia blinked. I didn't know." Danielle raised a hand, silencing her. "You didn't know," she repeated coldly. "You didn't care to know. That's the difference." Behind Danielle, her brother, Judge Michael Reynolds, had pulled out a small notepad and was writing quickly. His federal badge glinted under the boutique lights. Beside him, David Chen, Danielle's attorney, reviewed his notes on his phone, his expression a mix of disbelief and restrained fury. "Officer Foster," Judge Reynolds said, stepping forward, "let's get something clear. What evidence did you have that warranted detaining this child?" Foster cleared his throat. "The store manager, Ms. Walker, claimed she saw the girl conceal merchandise." "Did you confirm that with security footage?" the judge asked. "She said the cameras weren't working." "So, your entire arrest was based on the word of a single person with no proof and no working surveillance system?" "Yes, Your Honor, but there is no but." Judge Reynolds' voice was sharp now. "You put handcuffs on a 15-year-old black girl based on the suspicions of a woman who now works for her mother." Cynthia gasped. "What?" Danielle turned toward her slowly. "Didn't anyone ever tell you to check who signs your paycheck?" Cynthia's eyes widened in horror. "Wait. No, you can't mean—" "I'm Danielle Reynolds," she said, pulling out her business card and tossing it onto the counter. "CEO of Reynolds and Company Apparel. Bella's boutique is one of my properties, which makes you my employee, and that child you humiliated is my daughter." The air went completely still. Even the humming ceiling lights seemed to stop. Cynthia reached for the edge of the counter, steadying herself. Autumn, eyes red but shoulders squared, looked up at her mother. Danielle gave her a nod of encouragement, as if to say, "You're safe now." Let me handle this. A voice from the doorway broke the silence. I have video footage. Samantha Brooks, the white teenager who had filmed the entire incident, stepped forward with her phone raised. I recorded everything, from the moment Autumn walked in. Danielle gestured her forward. Officer Foster, she said, you'll want to see this. Everyone will. The group, including Danielle, the judge, Officer Foster, and now several employees, moved to the staff office behind the sales floor. The security console flickered to life. Lisa Mendoza, the sales associate who'd witnessed everything but had stayed silent, until now, typed in her credentials and pulled up the store's internal camera feed. Cynthia tried to stop her. Those cameras haven't been reliable. They've been recording just fine, Lisa said evenly. You just don't like what they show. The footage began to play on the monitor. And there she was, Autumn Reynolds, walking in through the glass doors, clutching her purse, smiling politely at the entrance. Then, frame after frame, she was shown moving through the boutique, browsing quietly, touching dresses gently, speaking respectfully, waiting at the counter ignored, presenting her money. The tension in the room deepened. Then came Cynthia's accusations, her dismissive tone, her refusal to acknowledge Autumn's money, and finally, the call to 911. No concealed items, no erratic behavior, David Chen said aloud. Nothing except a young girl trying to shop. Samantha then played her video from her phone, complete with audio. Cynthia's voice echoed through the small office. Be careful. Those aren't toys. Where did you get this money? I don't believe you. She doesn't belong in here. When the video ended, no one spoke for a long time. Finally, Dr. Camille Price, who had been quietly standing in the corner, stepped up beside Autumn and gently took her wrist to check her pulse. Her heart rate is elevated. She's exhibiting acute stress signs. I recommend she be taken for full medical and psychological evaluation. I'm taking her now, Danielle said firmly. Then she turned to Officer Foster. You've been given more grace than you deserve. I suggest you use this experience to learn how to recognize implicit bias before it wrecks another innocent life. Officer Foster swallowed hard and nodded, visibly shaken. Judge Reynolds stepped toward Cynthia. Ms. Walker, he said, what you did today constitutes a false police report. That's a criminal offense. Cynthia, now visibly sweating, stammered, I was just trying to protect the merchandise. You weren't protecting anything, Danielle snapped. You were protecting your prejudice. And your job, Lisa added, stepping forward at last. Because you treat people like Autumn differently all the time. You've done it to others. I've seen it. Cynthia's eyes darted to Lisa, stunned. You're turning on me? No, Lisa said quietly. I'm finally telling the truth. Danielle took a long breath. Then she turned to the growing group of witnesses, staff, and community members who'd followed her inside. Everyone, please listen closely, she said. Today, a 15-year-old girl was handcuffed. Not because she stole, not because she misbehaved, but because someone decided she didn't belong in a store she was actually entitled to walk through with pride. She paused. I will not allow this to go unpunished, not because I'm a CEO, and not just because I'm her mother, but because this is America, and what happened here today is a disease in the fabric of this country. She faced Cynthia one final time. You are fired. Effective immediately. You are banned from any Reynolds-owned property for life, and I will ensure you never work in retail again. Cynthia collapsed into the chair behind her. Danielle turned to Autumn, kneeling slightly to face her. Baby, are you okay? Autumn nodded slowly, tears falling again. I just wanted to buy you a dress." Danielle wrapped her arms around her daughter and held her. "I know, sweetheart. And we're still going to get that dress, but not for me, not anymore." She stood and turned back to the room. "We're going to get it for every child who's ever been told they don't belong. For every mother who's ever had to pick up the pieces after someone like Cynthia tried to break their child." Then she added, "And we're going to start something today, something bigger than a dress, something that lasts." And with that, the reckoning began. Not just for Cynthia Walker, but for every store, every institution, and every gatekeeper who ever mistook black dignity for criminal behavior. For most of her life, Cynthia Walker had relied on one simple truth. Her word was enough. As long as she said it with authority, shoulders back, voice steady, name tag gleaming, people listened. Customers backed down. Employees stayed silent. Even the occasional complaint got brushed aside with a well-practiced apology and a quick shift of blame. But today, in the small surveillance room of Bella's boutique, surrounded by legal counsel, a federal judge, a physician, an angry mother, and her handcuffed victim, Cynthia discovered a much harsher truth. Cameras don't lie. The boutique's security feed, finally brought up by associate Lisa Mendoza, had become the ultimate witness. There were no missing segments, no malfunctions. Just clear, high-definition footage showing exactly what had unfolded from the moment Autumn Reynolds stepped into the store. On screen, the young girl was seen walking through the entrance. She clutched her small leather purse tightly, her posture upright and respectful. She didn't meander, she didn't slouch, she didn't touch anything without care. The room watched in complete silence. First came the footage of Cynthia ignoring her at the counter, eyes glued to her paperwork as Autumn stood patiently, waiting for acknowledgement. Then came the vague wave toward the back of the store, delivered without even eye contact. There was no greeting, no offer of help, no warmth, just indifference. Then the scene shifted to Autumn quietly browsing. The camera showed her fingertips brushing lightly against the fabric of the dresses. She read tags, paused thoughtfully, held up one gown to admire it before placing it gently back on the rack. Nothing about her behavior was erratic or suspicious. Nothing. "She's treating those dresses better than most adults I've seen in here," Lisa muttered, unable to stay silent any longer. Next came the damning part, Cynthia stalking her through the store. From every angle, it was clear. Wherever Autumn moved, Cynthia followed, hovering just a few steps behind, arms folded, scowling. "She's following her like a hawk," said Judge Michael Reynolds, taking notes. "And yet, we see no attempt to conceal, no theft, no inappropriate behavior of any kind." Then came the moment that had sparked everything. Autumn picking up the emerald green gown. As she admired the beadwork, Cynthia appeared in the frame and stepped directly into her space. The boutique's microphone caught the exchange, Cynthia's voice. "Be very careful with that. These dresses aren't toys." Autumn's voice. "Yes, ma'am, I'm just checking the size." Cynthia. "That dress costs $400. It's not for everyone." Autumn's shoulders tightened on screen. She responded quietly, "I've been saving for my mom's birthday." The judge turned toward Cynthia. "Do you recall saying that line?" Cynthia shrugged weakly. "I was trying to be helpful." "No," Danielle snapped, her eyes never leaving the screen. "You were trying to intimidate her." Then the next scene played. Autumn at the counter, envelope in hand, laying out her carefully saved bills. You could see the moment Cynthia's face twisted into disbelief, followed by disdain. "Where did you steal this money?" Cynthia's voice rang through the speakers. Autumn's reply, "It's mine. I saved it." I can show you the bank envelope. I can call my mom. Cynthia, waving her off. No. Put that dress back. I'm calling the police. Cynthia, now watching herself on screen, visibly cringed. She leaned back in her chair, her mouth opening slightly, but the footage marched on. Then came the moment that broke the room. Cynthia accusing Autumn of putting something in her jacket pocket. On screen, Autumn simply adjusted her sleeve and jacket collar. Nothing more. There was no object, no merchandise, no theft. Just a girl adjusting her clothes in a boutique that had turned into a courtroom. "This is the moment," Lisa whispered, pointing at the monitor. "This is when she lied." "Not just lied," Judge Reynolds corrected. "Filed a false police report. That's a criminal act." Cynthia's face had gone pale. She looked down at her lap, her hands trembling. Danielle, still standing, crossed her arms. Her voice, when she spoke, was cold steel. "All of this, every lie, every accusation, every humiliation was caught on camera. You didn't just try to ruin my daughter's afternoon. You tried to ruin her record, her future. For what? Because you didn't like the color of her skin? Because you didn't think she could afford a dress?" "I didn't mean," Cynthia started. Danielle cut her off. "You didn't care, and that's worse." Then came the final blow, Samantha Brooks's phone footage. Samantha had recorded it all, the coldness in Cynthia's tone, the condescending remarks, the outright refusal to let Autumn explain. And unlike the security footage, her phone had audio with emotion. Autumn's tearful voice, Cynthia's snarling commands, Officer Foster's uneasy silence. "You can hear it," said David Chen, Danielle's lawyer. "The racial undertones, the targeting, the power trip." As Samantha's video ended, the room fell into an almost sacred silence. Dr. Camille Price, who had been silently observing Autumn's demeanor, finally stepped forward. "She's showing clear symptoms of trauma. Panic attacks, adrenaline fatigue, psychological distress. She should be evaluated immediately." Danielle nodded, resting a protective hand on Autumn's shoulder. "She will be." Then she turned again to Cynthia. "Do you know what you did to her?" she asked, her voice shaking now, not with rage, but grief. "My daughter, who's never broken a rule in her life, who saved for months to buy me a dress. You destroyed her trust in the world in one afternoon." Cynthia began to cry. "I'm sorry. I can learn. I can change." "You're sorry you got caught," Danielle said bluntly. "You're sorry it was my daughter. But you wouldn't have been sorry if she didn't have power behind her. If she'd been just another nobody. You'd have sent her off in a squad car and finished your shift." Lisa Mendoza stepped forward then, voice shaking. "I need to say something." Everyone turned. "I should have spoken up sooner. I've seen this before. Cynthia's treated other young Black and Hispanic girls like they were suspicious. She talks to white customers with smiles and compliments. But others? She follows them, ignores them, watches them like they're thieves." "Why didn't you speak up before?" Judge Reynolds asked, not unkindly. Lisa's voice cracked. "Because I was scared. Because I needed the job. But today I saw a child in handcuffs, and it broke something in me." Danielle approached Lisa and placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "It takes courage to admit that. Thank you." She turned once more to Officer Foster. "You saw the footage, you heard the audio, you had no cause to arrest her." Foster looked deeply ashamed. "No, ma'am, I didn't, and I'm sorry." "Sorry isn't enough," Danielle replied. "You're going to submit a written statement to Internal Affairs, and I expect full cooperation with the civil suit that's coming." Then she looked at Cynthia one final time. "I hope you understand what you've done, because I intend to make sure everyone else does." And with that, Danielle took her daughter's hand and led her out of the surveillance room. The cameras had told the truth. The lie had collapsed. And justice, slow, hard, but real, had begun. But Danielle Reynolds wasn't finished. She was just getting started. 3 weeks after the incident at Bella's boutique, Danielle Reynolds stood on a stage, bathed in soft golden light, wearing the very emerald green dress her daughter had once cradled like a fragile treasure. But tonight, it was no longer a birthday gift. It was a symbol of truth, of resilience, and of change born through pain. The ballroom was filled with friends, family, civil rights leaders, business executives, and members of the press. Autumn sat front and center, her hair done up in a soft twist, her smile quiet but strong. She was no longer the trembling child who had sat in the back of a police car. She had become something far more powerful, a catalyst. Danielle's voice echoed across the grand room as she addressed the crowd. 3 weeks ago, she began, my daughter Autumn walked into a store to buy me a birthday dress. She left in handcuffs. The room stilled. A few in the audience wiped away tears. Others held hands. All listened. She didn't steal. She didn't misbehave. She wasn't loud or rude or disrespectful. She was guilty of only one thing, being a black child in a space that decided she didn't belong. Danielle paused, letting the weight of that truth sink in. But Autumn didn't respond with rage. She didn't lash out. She stood tall. And when I arrived, when I held her in my arms, I realized this wasn't just about one bad employee or one failed protocol. This was about all the children who get profiled, dismissed, humiliated, and have no one to fight for them. That moment, Danielle declared, changed her life forever. The very next day, Danielle publicly launched the Autumn Initiative, a national reform campaign aimed at transforming retail policies in high-end spaces. It would include mandatory anti-bias training for all 4,200 employees in her fashion company, a newly instituted Customer Equality Bill of Rights, posted visibly in every Reynolds-owned store across 22 states, a 24-hour customer justice hotline offering shoppers a safe place to report discrimination in real time. But that was only the beginning. Danielle also announced the founding of the Autumn Reynolds Foundation, seeded with an initial $10 million. Its mission: to provide legal aid, scholarships, and mental health support for youth affected by racial profiling, especially in commercial and educational spaces. Autumn, standing beside her mother, spoke only a few words that evening, but they were unforgettable. "I saved my money for a dress," she said softly, "but instead I bought something bigger. I bought awareness, and I hope it helps someone else be treated right." The applause thundered for nearly 2 full minutes. Across the country, news outlets picked up the story. From trauma to triumph, teens wrongful arrest. Sparks national retail reform, read one headline. Mother turns injustice into industry-wide change, read another. The boutique where the incident occurred? Bella's boutique underwent a total staff overhaul. Cynthia Walker was terminated, charged with filing a false report, and faced civil litigation. Officer Brian Foster underwent mandatory bias retraining and was reassigned from public-facing duty for a full year. Samantha Brooks, the teenager whose footage helped unravel the false narrative, was honored with the Civic Courage Award from the Chicago Youth Council. She donated her prize money to the Autumn Foundation. As for Autumn, she returned to her normal routine, but her world had changed. She no longer walked into stores nervously clutching her purse. She walked with her head high. She knew her rights. She knew her worth. And more importantly, so did everyone else. Danielle's closing remarks at the gala struck a final chord that resonated beyond the chandelier-lit ballroom. "This dress," she said, motioning to the emerald green silk that shimmered beneath the stage lights, "is not just a birthday gift. It's a message. That dignity cannot be priced, that courage has no size tag, and that when we protect our children, when we believe them, we build a world where no one needs to be afraid to simply exist." Then she raised her glass, to Autumn, to truth, to justice, and to the next child who walks through a door and demands to be seen. The crowd stood and applauded. That night, a dress became a declaration, and a teenage girl named Autumn Reynolds became a name that retail and America would never forget. Have you or someone you know ever faced unfair treatment because of how you looked or where you were? What would you have done if Autumn was your daughter, a sister, or student? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. If this story moved you, hit that like button, subscribe for more powerful true stories, and share this video to help spark conversations that matter. Let's build a community where every voice is heard and every story makes a difference. Join us, and let's create impact, one story at a time.